Hello and welcome to another edition of the No Gimmies podcast. I am your host, Evan Cook. I am joined, as always, by Aaron Bullwinkle. Aaron, pretty exciting times for you right now because the NBA Cup is headed your way for all the way to Las Vegas, Nevada. You're going to be finding yourself with a bunch of Threads contributors, a bunch of content creators, and watching some great basketball games.
Yeah, being here in Vegas, the NBA Cup has been a thing for me for 3 years now. It's kind of funny. 2 years ago, I was offered tickets that ended up being uh give me just a moment, I apologize. That I was offered tickets by a buddy who's the general manager of Momofuku, and it turned out I got Dave Chang's tickets for so I had pretty good seats for those who are familiar who David Chang was, and that was my point of that. And that was actually the first NBA Cup. And all of a sudden, the light bulb went on like, the NBA Cup's here every year. Why wouldn't I just make this a thing? And so now every year I go to the NBA Cup. This is the first year that I'm going to be able to connect with some people from Threads, which I'm really excited for. There's some planned stuff that just has to do with some things that's kind of as a Threads creator, whatever. I didn't make it to the Creator Cup on Friday night. Hopefully next year, maybe I can get like a bench role in that game because I think I could drop some buckets on some people that I'm aware of playing in that game. But anyways, the NBA Cup's exciting. It's weird because going to the games as somebody who's so accustomed to going to games where the fan base has a rooting interest, there is a very different energy in the arena. I don't dislike it. I think it's still really enjoyable and cool, but it's just different to not have like a very clear fan base established for the home team, unless the Lakers are here once again, as they were 2 years ago when they blew the doors off the Pelicans. But I'm hoping against that for reasons we already discussed.
Do you said you've been there the last couple of years? Is there a sense that this is starting to grow in popularity, that people they're starting to catch on to it, or at least get somewhat more excited for the fact that these teams are coming in the middle of the season? I know it's young, it's early. The NBA Cup was, kind of talked down upon by some people. They're like, why do they need to do this? This isn't interesting. I think basketball is kind of following a soccer model in this sense. But is there a feeling in Las Vegas that there's some excitement buzzing around these games?
Las Vegas itself, I don't really get that sense. Like, it's not something. Look, I work in the food and beverage industry, as everybody knows, and one of the big things with what we do, obviously, is forecasting. And the way people talk about upcoming events is with an excitement that's usually tethered to it being something that's bringing a lot of people in or a lot of energy in. I don't get that sense with the NBA Cup here. What I will say is, from first year to second year, the way the NBA presented it and just kind of the entire experience, I think was more of an allure for people in general. And I think as this continues to grow, and now the one big caveat here being, does the NBA Cup continue to be in Las Vegas? If Las Vegas has expansion, no, because then it's an unfair advantage or things like that. But if it continues to just be like an opportunity to kind of have this separate experience of the NBA that's a destination event, I think there's growth there. And I think there is more and more excitement. I think all the things that the NBA's done to at least drive intrigue, love it or hate it, the courts and just the sponsorship deals and the other things that have broadened the scale of it and the scope of it as an entire entity, that I do feel has continued to grow. People in Vegas are kind of a nerd to stuff anyway, so I don't like them really as a barometer for sports events because there's so much stuff happening here all the time. Half the people don't know what's going on, just to be honest. We don't have a whole basketball team.
Las Vegas is not a place that people travel for to go see sports franchises. I mean, in general, as much as, every organization, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, are trying to make it, Las Vegas a sports city. It doesn't have that history, not yet. Yeah. So there's something to be built upon there. And yes, if expansion does happen, I think it would be a bad decision by the NBA to have the finals in that city. It should obviously be in a neutral site if that's what they're going to continue doing. And it would be an unfair advantage, say, if the Las Vegas team, if and when expansion does happen, that they would have home court. That would seemingly be unfair. But also, the NBA has never turned down its nose at money. So as long as they keep generating a bunch of revenue from this, I don't think they're going to change that location just because of some hypothetical or maybe marginal, what may be perceived to be marginal advantage for one of the teams. So, but
Well,
we should. I'm sorry, I'll let you finish, but we should actually talk about these games.
yeah. All I was going to say to the other part of it is with the Golden Knights and the Raiders, a lot of that has really changed. And obviously, that's the whole reason that this city, I mean, it's not the whole reason. This city really wanted to establish itself as more than just a transient experience. And the Golden Knights did such a magnificent job of really shifting what the sports culture was as a local city. But your point in general is correct. You know, whenever the Las Vegas Kings, owned by LeBron James, are here, I'm sure the NBA wouldn't do anything to give them any advantages or benefits whenever that expansion team happens. So let's talk about the games.
Yeah, let's go through them real quick. So in the quarterfinals from the West, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder playing the Phoenix Suns, who had a very entertaining game just about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And then we have the Lakers and the Spurs playing in the other bracket with the possible return of Victor Wembanyama to the San Antonio Spurs. And then on the eastern side of the bracket, we have the Orlando Magic playing the Miami Heat, a little Florida in-state rivalry. And then we have the Toronto Raptors and the New York Knicks. Some very entertaining games, some fun teams in there. Aaron, where do you want to start?
Let's start with the Rony Seikaly Bowl, the Magic and Heat.
Okay.
Shout out to anybody who got that reference, by the way.
Well, unfortunately, this game has lost a little bit of its luster, considering that we just heard the report today that Franz Wagner will be out 2 to 4 weeks with a high ankle sprain. I was actually somewhat relieved to hear that that was all that it was, considering whenever he went down, he was grasping at his what looked like.
Yeah, that looked way worse. Way worse.
It looked way worse than a high ankle sprain.
I thought we were looking at a torn, like patellar tendon or something. The way the front of the knee responded to it and the jam and everything happened, the ankle felt like a surprise, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it didn't look like that was what the injury was. But I'm just gonna say I'm thankful that it's not anything worse than that. Now that the Orlando Magic once again are without their two best players.
No, Paolo's back.
Well, there you go. Maybe that's just what Orlando gets anymore. They only get one guy in the lineup at a time.
Superstar whack-a-mole is what they're doing right now in the worst. Your turn, my turn is not supposed to be like a game by game proposition. It's supposed to be like a possession by possession thing. But the Magic are really playing this differently.
Well, this is a very interesting matchup in multiple facets. I mean, the Miami Heat have quite possibly been the surprise of the NBA. The Orlando Magic, despite the injury to Wagner, have really kind of found themselves in the last few games. I believe they're at 14-9 after that 1-5 start. So definitely moving in the right direction. But obviously the injury to Wagner, who has been fantastic in Banchero's absence, that's going to be a really a difficult blow to this Orlando Magic team. What should we be looking for in this matchup? Where's your mind going whenever you look at this?
Had Franz not gone out, and actually even with Franz out, because so much of this right now is centered around the identity that these two teams are playing with offensively and how exciting it's been on both sides. You and I have already kind of talked, not ad nauseum per se, but plenty about the Heat's offense and this kind of decentralized Noah LaRoche attacking offense. It's been so much fun to watch. But the Magic, on the other hand, completely shifted styles to this really fast attacking by pass, not so much by trying to break up and down offense. It's looked great over the course of, their last 15 to 20 games. And so these two teams, Paolo being back in the lineup, I haven't looked at the numbers to see since he's been back if the passes per game have stayed up the way the Magic had really accelerated in his absence. So those are what I'll be watching for. How does this Heat offense look against a pretty stout Magic defense in terms of their ability to guard up on the perimeter against a team that's going to try to isolate, and how the Magic offense is a fast passing offense now reintegrates Paolo as a player who has not shown a great ability to get off the ball quickly. Those are going to be the two things. I didn't necessarily talk about their matchup, but I think those two elements are going to dictate who wins this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, in the last 10 games, if you just want to look at a smaller sample size, but those have been games where Banchero mostly has not played. So he's just recently returned. The Miami Heat are first in pace, the Orlando Magic fourth. So I expected it to be the kind of game where you could get a lot of up and down, a lot of fast paced offense, a really high scoring affair. I was really excited to see what it was going to be like with both teams sort of at full strength now that Miami has also reincorporated Tyler Hero into their new look offense. And he's actually fit in very seamlessly back in with the Miami Heat. But I was going to be kind of interested to see if it were a close game down the stretch, how Spoelstra kind of handles his rotations. With a Hero Powell backcourt and a very tough physical Orlando Magic defense. So that was just something I was curious about, but now that's kind of shifted the dynamics a little bit.
Yeah, but that matchup there is going to be really interesting because one, the Heat unfortunately late in game, a couple games ago, fell back to the bad hero ball that I can't stand, and I mean literally the bad Tyler Hero late game shots that we've been watching for multiple years now. But you kind of spoke to dualistic matchups are going to be really interesting because late in games, I would imagine if you're the Magic, it's Anthony Black on Norman Powell and it's Jalen Suggs on Tyler Hero, and yes. Good luck Orlando with that. Because Jalen Suggs just wrecks people's dreams when they're trying to bring the ball up against him late. You know, I gave you crap last week on that game when it was the Spurs and the Magic because we had just gotten off talking about the Spurs and the Magic and we rated them in the power rankings and the Spurs equaling out late for people who didn't see it kind of on the shoulders.
A very good game, though.
It was a great game. But one of the things that I was really impressed with in the loss was Jalen Suggs was just – De'Aaron Fox the last 2 minutes was having a hell of a time bringing the ball up against him because of the way he can get into you and how smart he is. And on one play, this was just for anybody who can go back and watch. It was the craziest thing. De'Aaron Fox is out on the fast break. And De'Aaron Fox went to check to see where the backside defender was. And the exact moment he looked, Jalen Suggs, like a defensive back, we use this reference all the time, jumped into the ball, grabbed it, and was like off. And the announcers were like, oh, I think De'Aaron Fox heard footsteps. That was not what happened. Jalen Suggs made just like a masterclass of reading play. And it's those things against a loose ball handle and Tyler Hero that I'm excited to see.
Well, the Orlando Magic announce team, they love to bring up the fact that Jalen Suggs was also, I think, like a very highly recruited high school football player as well as a basketball player. He ended up choosing basketball. Obviously made the right decision there because of where he is. But he was, you know, if you said like a defensive back, he's got great instincts and he knows when to, you know, kind of make his play on the ball because in football, you have to make these split second decisions right as the ball is about to reach the wide receiver's hands. If you go too early, you're committing pass interference. If you're too late, it's a reception. So, you know, I think that really helps him in his defensive instincts as a basketball player, having that background.
And just for your sake, yeah, they mention it all the time, but he was Mr. Football and Mr. Basketball in the same year, which is pretty wild.
I say that he was Mr. Football and be wrong, but I was pretty sure that was right.
Yeah.
Let's switch over real quick and let's jump to the other game in the East, the Knicks and the Raptors. This is a very interesting matchup, a much more interesting matchup than I would have thought, you know, going into the season. Obviously, that's one of the things I've been most wrong about is this Raptors team. And I think this is a pretty clear definition that this is a real it's not fluky. This is a very real Toronto Raptors team to make it to the NBA Cup, to be in this position against a New York Knicks team that is still somewhat finding itself on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. Not to say that their record is like poor or bad. I think they're about where everybody thought they would be. It's just it hasn't been as seamless maybe as some other people thought with this new look Mike Brown offense. You know, I've been kind of annoyed, and I mentioned something on Threads about this, about how much Tom Thibodeau has been dumped on by, you know, the in-studio panels, the announce crews, you know, talking about this new look New York Knicks offense whenever you look at offensive rating, it's not like some stark difference. They weren't a bottom half of the team. I think they were fourth in offensive rating. Now, you can say that stylistically it was a very boring spread pick and roll system that Tom Thibodeau was running, where the ball was constantly in Jalen Brunson's hand. He's running a spread pick and roll with Cat and then just kicking out to shooters, and made guys like OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges kind of just spot up shooters. And now there's a little bit more juice to the offense, to the ball as it flows through. You can make that argument. I'm not saying that that's incorrect. I'm just saying that maybe we're kind of pushing the narrative that Mike Brown's offensive system is just some sort of revelatory thing that's happened in New York. On the flip side, a Toronto Raptors offense that I had many questions about going into this season has been top 10 all season long for the Toronto Raptors. They have found a lot of ways to score. Brandon Ingram, notorious BI3, has been playing outstanding.
Love
RJ
it.
Barrett has been very consistent for them. I think Scotty Barnes is playing some of the best basketball of his career, and Emmanuel quickly is starting to kind of find himself. So, what are you looking at in this matchup?
A lot to process there. So we're going to start with
I took a lot of that out all at once.
No, I love it. We're going to start with the Knicks, and I think your point is very valid in terms of, yes, it does look somewhat different, but this Knicks defense or offense, pardon me, isn't night and day from what we saw last year, including Jaylen Brunson's usage still being really high. The thing with this Knicks team is the story is going to be health. Now, they just got OG Anunoby back, which is big for them because of what he can do defensively, particularly now that Mikal Bridges looks like himself again. On both sides, he's been a much better version of himself defensively than he was last year. And that's what I'm more excited to see with this Knicks team actually than their offense is what is the high end of this defense if both of those guys are playing at an all defensive level. And I think both of them, you can make arguments, have this season. And at that point, do you have the best two starting perimeter defenders in the league? We can talk about the Thunder once you insert somebody like Alex Caruso or somebody else in there. But when you're looking at Bridges and Anunoby at 2 and 3, and you're trying to get past those two guys, obviously Brunson's kind of the weak link in that perimeter D in a way that the Thunder don't have to deal with. But that interests me kind of more with this Knicks team's going forward than their offense does, because no matter what, with Jaylen Brunson, all that dynamic change still kind of it's squared away into kind of a relative, and with Cat, there's just a familiarity to how they're going to play. That Raptors team, they've been scuffling a little bit offensively the last 2 weeks without RJ Barrett. They've actually been not as good, and I've seen some of the stuff I don't love out of our boy BI3, not to a point where I'm like, all of a sudden, we've got to reel it all back in. I just want to see what happens as they continue to balance kind of these struggles. Just having RJ Barrett's meant so much to their offense because of the versatility of how he plays, and his continual kind of downhill attack and pressure on the rim opens a lot up that you can see that they're not getting. So they've now dropped to 13th in offensive rating.
Okay. I think I said that they were consistently in the top 10 for
which they have been. Yeah. That's not even to correct you. That's just to make the point of like, they're at that point now where this is where the good teams kind of refocus and refine themselves, and I think they'll be fine. They just had a bad loss or not a bad loss, a tough loss to a Celtics team that's playing really out of its mind. But I want to see when this game gets physical and all that, which team answers that bell.
Yeah, I think that's a really astute point. I think there's some really, what I like to do throughout the season, and you'll hear me mention this on the podcast throughout, but this is just I like to take little snapshots of where teams are in the last 10 games. And that's why whenever you hear me talk about a team, I'm not going to talk about what their overall, unless it's something that's been consistent throughout the entire season. So to your point, in the last 10 games, the Toronto Raptors have fallen all the way to 24th in offensive rating. So dropping from 6th where they were originally, I think at the top of the year, now averages down to about 13. So it's a very good point by you to bring that up, that they've been struggling a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. They have been very astute defensively. I think they've been hovering around the top 10. And
defense has been great. They're at 8 right now, or 7, depending on what you're looking at. And
I think, and then they're 9 in the last 10. So it's really helped them whenever their offensive struggled. I'm more interested in just kind of seeing how they try to take advantage of the Mitchell Robinson minutes. I think I think Radjakovic is a very like. I think Darko is a really smart coach, and Mitchell Robinson is such such an effective defender, such as an effective rim defender, but he can also guard on the perimeter. Not you don't want him to get a full switch, but he can definitely show if he gets stranded on an island. But he's actually like on pace to have the worst free throw shooting percentage of like all time if he continues at this current pace. I think he's at like I need to look it up again, but it's bad. It's very bad. So like is there gonna be some, Hacker Robinson things going on? To try and counter that because once Mitchell Robinson's out of the game, the Knicks defense really kind of struggles to defend the paint, which I think is somewhere where a player like Scotty Barnes, he can really thrive. But let me see if I can find this free throw percentage real quick. He's at 17.6% on the season.
How many attempts is that so far, though?
Well, he's averaging only 1.1 attempts. But last year, on the same number of attempts per game, he was averaging 68%. Yeah.
That's not bad.
Good. Yeah. It turns out whenever it drops by 75%, you're probably struggling a little bit. So I don't know. I'm just looking for some chess match stuff and see what Radjakovic has. Also, I mean, I'm just very interested in seeing how they try and defend Jaylen Brunson. I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup.
What I really want to see is one of the looks that I've liked. I mean, this isn't anything new, but throwing real size and strength at Jaylen Brunson. The Celtics had Jordan Walsh on him, and I thought Jordan Walsh did a great job in that game that they played. I think it was last week when Jaylen ends up going off late in the game. And I like that look. And so Scotty Barnes on Jaylen Brunson in the fourth quarter is a matchup I would really keep a lookout for, because that would not surprise me if the Raptors decide to see what Scotty's length and strength, because athletically he's such a freak at his size. He can kind of hang with Brunson a little bit. Now you've got to figure out some of your cross matchups and stuff. But throwing Emmanuel quickly on Josh Hart's not really going to upset you if you can keep Hart out of the paint. So just all those, all that obviously depends on who's playing where.
Well, but I mean, typically what most teams have been doing when Josh Hart's in the lineup is that they've been putting their center on him. I was watching a Knicks game the other day. God, I can't even remember who they were playing, but I remember looking to see who was guarding Josh Hart, and it was a 7-foot center. And Josh Hart was playing in the corner, and the center was giving him about 8 to 10 feet of room. And Josh Hart, when he caught the ball in the corner, he never even looked to really shoot. He immediately tried to attack the paint and use his quickness and his athleticism and try to get around people, but he wasn't looking to even shoot corner three. So that is a little bit of a fascinating matchup. So you could stick quickly on him, or you could stick, Jakob Pertl on him. And so it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah. You and I have had this conversation about Josh Hart before, who I love. I love his game. I love his effort. I love the Swiss Army knife.
Threw a baby the other night.
The Mitchell Robinson.
He had to get checked back into a game, and he immediately just threw a child to Mitchell Robinson. And jumped back into the game.
Yeah. Here, hold this real quick. I got something I got to do.
Amazing.
But the problem may not be fair, but there's a little bit of a misconception about who Josh Hart is a player, because we love this versatility and all these things from the wing position, but he's just a power forward at this point, which means all the other stuff that he does is he's a perfectly fine rebounding power forward, but he's not elite. He's a poor shooting stretch four. What he is he does a lot of things that works well in their system, but it's not like from the power forward position he actually gives you the matchup advantages that people like to act like he creates at times. And you're speaking
he's like an old school power forward from like the mid to late 90s.
Yes, but much more up and down, right? Like he can push to get out though. He's like if Charles Oakley could run up and down the court.
Yes.
Except for not that same. I mean, Oakley may not be a good example because Oakley was just such a monster from a physicality standpoint. But yes, to your point, he's like the older version.
I'm thinking about like a high motor guy, and I'm not trying to compare him to anybody, but I'm saying like he's like an undersized power forward with a high motor who rebounds a lot. If you could think like a thinner Charles Barkley.
Yeah, yeah.
Because a
But I mean,
rebounder, like power, like a guy who uses his power and physicality, but also had a little bit of speed. But like I said, I'm not trying to compare Josh Hart to Charles Barkley. I'm just
yeah,
trying to make you kind of understand that that's like the vision that
yeah.
but yeah,
But even the rebounding stuff with him, right? Like his per 36 this year is 9.7. Like that's total that's good, but that's not like elite power forward rebounding numbers. And I think sometimes I watched a video recently and it was completely fair. They were talking about look how well he reads the ball off this rim. We don't talk about Josh Hart's rebounding enough. I'm like,
why should we
for a
talk only about his
yeah,
rebounding?
for a power forward, I think we talk about it too much. Like he's not in the top 15 or 20 or 30 per 36. I mean, I'd have to go
The
back
only
and look at it,
category he
but
really leads in is minutes per game.
yeah, and this year that's not the case. He's
And
down
even
seven
that's not
minutes
even the
per
case
game,
because he's not even being employed by like that by Tibbs.
and he's not a consistent starter or anything. Again, this is not knock on Josh Hart. This is
Not
just
at all.
framing him properly for
Not at
people
all.
out there that are listening. I want to make sure we're making that clear. There's no Josh Hart hate here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's flip over to the Western side because we got to get through these other games as well, and then we got to talk about some other things as we go along here. So, like I said, with the imminent return, this is the report that I've heard that Victor Wembanyama could make his debut in the NBA Cup, which adds a little bit more gravitas, a little bit more weight to this matchup with the Los Angeles Lakers.
A little more stature to the game.
Well, a little bit, maybe somebody that will will kind of give the Lakers a little something else to think about. I don't know. They might have to adjust their game plan.
Right, yeah.
Victor Wembanyama is back back in the starting lineup. I'm not saying that Luke Cornett is an easy center to guard either. By the way, thank God he's here. Yeah, I love Luke Cornett. The game saving block. I've watched that clip more times than I can care to say. The block that he had against the Magic.
That dude apparated. Like I didn't know Luke Cornett could move like that. You'd want to talk about breaking like a defensive back. The way he got on that ball was impressive.
Yeah, I had no idea that he was a legacy NBA player as well, or like a legacy basketball guy because his dad also played at Vanderbilt. But learned that the other night.
Oh,
So
I did not know that either.
I learned that watching the Orlando game. So there you go. That's what I actually really like the Orlando announcing team. I don't know their names, and apologies to them, but they were really fun. I very much enjoy them. Their halftime entertainment or their halftime and like timeout entertainment could really use some work, but that's neither here nor there.
And they've got a catchy tune.
Yeah, but damn, they got a catchy tune. So yeah, the DeAndre Ayton has played well and really embraced his role. But the reason that DeAndre Ayton was brought in to play for the Los Angeles Lakers was to be a big body for some of these other centers in the Western Conference. Be their primary defender. So this is actually going to be a true test of what they brought him in the game to do. He's had some fine averages. I think he's very much lived up to the billing that a lot of people had for him as he came over to the Lakers via, his buyout. I think he's been very serviceable. I actually think he's been good, downright good. And so I'm kind of interested to see what happens. How much of the rust is Victor Wembanyama going to have to shake off? How do the Lakers kind of plan on defending him? How does he reintegrate with De'Aaron Fox? And I believe Stephon Castle is also back, although Dylan Harper is now out, if I'm not mistaken. Is Dylan Harper? I think that's correct.
If he sustained an injury, it was something I missed over the last day or so.
Yeah, I thought Dylan Harper was out, but I might be making that up. So excuse me if I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, he's good. But the last time we had this conversation, Klingon had literally gotten hurt, and I had just missed it because you were like, "Oh, Klingon's out." I'm like, "No, he's made every game. He hasn't played since that conversation."
Yeah, well, sometimes it happens. You try and keep up with the injury reports for 30 teams, and you miss a few things.
Yeah,
but yeah, the reintegration into the offense that's actually been the Spurs have been clicking, and they've been playing extremely well. The Lakers, on their own right, they are second in the West. They have a very they've been playing some great basketball. Luka Doncic is playing out of his mind on the offensive side of the ball. I think he's at 35, 9, and 8 on the season. Could really use to bring some of that 3-point shooting percentage up, but his scoring you have no problem with. And then last night, LeBron James against the Philadelphia 76ers, he looked pretty damn sharp. So the Wash King, the rumors of his demise have been greatly overstated, I would say. So Aaron, what are you looking for in this Western Conference matchup?
It's funny because we went this long and we didn't even talk about Austin Reeves,
I
who's
I was gonna get there.
who has not only been phenomenal, but who I'm still pissed off that the Spurs didn't offer a contract 2 years ago to where we wouldn't have had to deal with any of this bullshit. Where now the Lakers have Reeves, Doncic, and LeBron James. But first, obviously, just the opportunity to have Wemby back in any game is the most exciting thing for me. He is the he's not the best player in the NBA, but he's probably my favorite player to watch play
I
basketball
think he's
because of the
everybody's must-see player in the NBA.
yeah, yeah. And the idea, look, selfishly, I'm hopefully going to be able to get to see him live. I've only seen him in person one other time, and it was for a personal workout with a bunch of NBA scouts. So I haven't seen him actually play basketball live. So that would be really exciting. Uh, so the distinction of these two teams feel like they're kind of in the same level of competition, right, for where we think they would be going forward in the West. Like we expect these two teams probably to be in the top 5 or 6, but one team feels like this kind of old um, group that's figuring out where, the Lakers are figuring out what the next step is kind of on the fly because I think they're outplaying expectations by a lot of people's measures, whereas the Spurs are outplaying some people's expectations. Plenty of the rest of us thought that. And they're the exact opposite. They're so young that there's like kind of no rush to figure this out. And so it's a really weird dichotomy versus like, the Lakers have to go all in and do everything to win this year before Austin Reeves is a free agent. And that money is even more onerous. And LeBron is a free agent. And what are they going to do with this? And the Spurs, on the other hand, are like, we are so well set and stacked. Do we need to hurry anything? Because of the youth and everything they have there. So it's just
On a
interesting to
beautiful
watch.
timeline. I think they've got contracts that if they wanted to make trades down the road, they could do that. They've got young players that they're developing and they're happening at at a rapid pace. Victor Wembanyama has been everything they could ever ask for and more. And it seems as though that they've got a really smart head coach that has all these guys just straight up humming. So, I mean, what else like can the Spurs? All this talk, and I've been one of them about this Giannis. How they could trade and have to put the best trade package together for Giannis. This is the same conversation you could have had a couple of years ago about Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And would you want to rush that? Now, I'm not saying that both of these teams are exactly the same. I'm not saying that every player is going to develop to be like a Jalen Williams, a Chad Holmgren, et cetera, et cetera. You don't know that, but that's why you have the assets. That's why you have the pieces. That's why you have all these things to be able to make decisions like that. And I trust the Spurs front office as much as I trust any other front office in the NBA. As they are top tier in evaluating talent. They're top tier in making the right decisions for their franchise. They've done everything the correct way. So yeah, you're absolutely right. They're in a beautiful spot. What are they, fourth in the West?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's without Victor Wembanyama for extended
amount
of time.
I think they're 9-3 in his absence, maybe 10-3 now in his absence.
Good Lord, that's ridiculous.
They're being led by their elder statesman who is 32 years old and Harrison Barnes. They're in such a good situation with so much depth and such good, one of the things
they call him Unk. You just know what they do.
Oh, 100%. Him and Alex Caruso got to wear that. And meanwhile, both guys are like, I'm 31. Like, what's going on here? The thing that I love really about both of these teams from their guard play standpoint, when I look at Austin Reeves and I look at Dylan Harper, who are like two of just my favorite players to watch operate offensively, because they're guards, and Stefan Castle can be thrown in this as well. They're guards that just know how to put themselves in positions to help their team. Now, Austin Reeves is doing it like an insanely high level at this point because he's such a talented offensive weapon, on-ball creator, passer, spot-up shooter. But, Dylan Harper, all the dirty stuff he does, the things that I saw him do late in that game again against Orlando, where it was like, this guy is 19, or I don't think he's quite yet turned 20. If he is 20, whatever. And the level of poise and understanding of how and when to attack to get buckets late in a big game, relatively speaking, it's like it's just a lot of really exciting players going to be on the floor in this series. And then it's just interesting because it's a lot of storylines, like I said, that are in all these different spaces in kind of the greater NBA sphere. When you think about Wemby and LeBron and Luka and all that, and even the history of these matchups, right? Like these guys have been, the Lakers and Spurs have been battling each other since the early 2000s. There's just a lot there.
Yeah, I mean, this is some great star power for the NBA. I think the NBA is their mouth is watering at this matchup. I think it's going to be. I'm sorry. No, I just thought it was going to be peak for them. I don't think they could have scripted that any better to have the future of the NBA, what they think is the future, and Victor Wembanyama, and the guy who's been carrying that torch for 20 years, and LeBron James, in the same matchup. I mean, you're right. The star power on the floor is going to be magnetic. And you put that with Las Vegas and all the celebrities and all the people that are going to probably be there. And you're going to be, I don't know, we're going to have something really fun to watch. I really hope it's as entertaining of a game as it appears on paper.
Yeah, I'm not excited for what I'm going to have to pay to go to the game, but I'm excited to see all those players because this game of the four has the, if it gets to that point, right? Like if
I was going to mention this to you off air, but I was actually planning on going to Denver at the end of January when the Thunder are at Denver. They just happen to be there. And I'm already thinking about how much money I'm going to be spending on that ticket to try and get in to watch that game. And that's months from now. And I'm like, I need to start saving up so I can get some really good seats for that. So same thing for you. You're like going to have to pick up an extra shift or two to make sure you pay for those tickets.
Yeah.
One last matchup, and then we need to move on because we got 3 up, 3 down to talk about as well. The Thunder and the Suns, the surprising Suns, if we want to be alliterative, playing in a rematch of a very well-contested matchup just a couple of weeks ago in Oklahoma City. Phoenix took them to the brink, and the Thunder ended up squeaking out another win. They are up to 15 in a row after their blowout win over the Utah Jazz last night that featured some really weird pyrotechnics during a Chet Holmgren dunk. That was fun to watch. And also a Will Hardy crash out that I have watched 7 times a day just trying to hear everything he was yelling at his bench. OKC obviously rolling 23-1 on the season. The Suns are playing the Minnesota Timberwolves as we speak. I was actually watching that before you and I started recording. And they're still rolling and they're still playing impressive competitive basketball under Jordan Ott. So is there a matchup or something that you're looking at in this game that's going to excite you about Thunder Phoenix?
The first one that's just going to interest me is I remember kind of going into the NBA Cup last year feeling like the Thunder were kind of inevitable and how well they were playing going into the NBA Cup, and then that terrible game they had against the Bucks in the final. Yeah. And so I'm interested to see if the last year's experience with that is going to change how aggressive their approach is. And this year, it's not that the Thunder really have to change anything, right? Like, they know who they are. They've already won the title. It doesn't really matter who they're lined up against. They hit you from all these different places. But it did feel like last year, for whatever reason, and part of this was just the growth of the team, I think, and having gone through what they went through in the postseason really changed that. It felt like they let their foot off the gas against the Bucks, and the Bucks kind of hit them in the mouth early. So this year, I'm expecting that they're probably going to try to boot stomp the Suns. And not let Phoenix hang around, especially after that last game, because I think they have a better sense of this is a Phoenix team. Look, just like we talked about Darko last year, Jordan Ott has obviously established a culture that's founded around we're going to play hard and we're going to be aggressive and we're going to play the guys that give us the best chance to win. And I don't really care beyond that. And that obviously goes a long way. And so I'm excited to see that between these two teams, but
my biggest question about Phoenix is whether they can play that kind of physical defense and be disciplined. That was the problem, I think, in their original matchup, is that they were just fouling constantly, so much so that, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was bleeding from the mouth and he called Dylan Brooks a bitch. If you have watched Oklahoma City games, it is very hard to get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be that animated. And he pointed at him, his eyes bugging out of his head. And this is his Canadian.
I was getting ready to say these dudes are teammates in other lives. Yeah.
A guy that he has mentioned multiple times that he enjoys playing with.
Yeah, and they've had little tussles before that have gotten aggressive and then funny and all that. This one wasn't funny. Yeah,
but not anymore. No, he wasn't happy with those last ones. So I like Phoenix's defense. They play a very similar defense to Oklahoma City, but they don't play as disciplined and they commit a lot of dumb fouls. So if they can reel that in and they can play that physical style of defense without putting the Thunder on the free throw line, I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup on that end because the Thunder had a really hard time stopping the 3-point shooting of O'Neal, Gillespie. Brooks, I think, had like 25 that game. I think he was really sharp. They had Grayson Allen also knocked it, so and the only bummer about this is that I don't think that Devin Booker is going to be available for this game. I don't know for sure. And I would like to see his star power in the game. He's always had some really fun matchups with Lou Dort in the past whenever he's been guarded by him. And I like to see their kind of back and forth. And, Oklahoma City, they might have taken a rest day the other night against Utah, let some of their guys take a little bit of a break. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander was out. I think they had like 6 or 7 guys on the.
Yeah, it was Hartenstein, Dort, Shea.
I think it was a scheduled rest day, but they got to come up with their reasons why. I think they're all going to be available for this game, as far as I know, unless Hartenstein might still be out. So I don't know how long his injury is. So
I'm not sure that he's slated to be back yet.
Are we under ad nauseum? But can we, Mark Williams is another guy I want to talk about. He's averaging about the same number of points and rebounds as he has for his entire career, but he's actually number 5 in the league in alley-oops caught this year. He's in the top 5, so been finishing really well at the rim. His field goal percentage is up about 6 points over last year.
The alley-oop finishing actually isn't surprising for him either. I think every year he's been in the league, he's been amongst the leaders in terms of minutes played in alley-oops. He just obviously never has the volume from a minute standpoint. But
sure.
Hey, he's played 19 games this year. That's awesome. All we want from Mark Williams is help.
For him to be on the floor.
Yeah, I like him. He's looked more aggressive to me. I still have issues with what he is defensively. I don't think that's ever going to go away. And the fact that
he's 23, to be fair. I mean, he's still got time to kind of figure that out.
Yeah, but the thing about that stuff defensively with big men is a lot of times it's so instinctual and it's it's very rare that we watch a big man like grow into being like Brook Lopez did, and so it's possible. Yeah. But it's very rare that we watch a big man grow into being a really good rim protector, and especially when,
in my mind, has had like 2 different careers. It was like maybe 3 threes and playing actual defense. He became a completely different player in the later stages of his career. Yeah. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's very rare that something like that happens.
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
about 25, you generally know what kind of player you are. Now there are exceptions to that. Norman Powell, we talked about. Brook Lopez being another obvious one.
Although with Norman Powell, I would just argue all we saw in Norman Powell was the expansion of what we already knew was there, right? Like basically
we knew he could have that next level.
No, yeah, nobody. I mean, dude is basically a superstar level scorer. I'm not calling him a superstar.
What I meant to say by that is like nobody really hits their peak at like 29.
Yeah,
that's like that. Very rarely does that happen.
Yeah, that only happens
at 25. You know exactly what a player is going to be generally.
That only happens in the sports like baseball and track and field. And for anyone who didn't see the video, I was pantomiming maybe that hypodermic needles might be involved with that improvement. I mean, HGH, whatever. Going back to the Suns real quick. I don't know enough about Jordan Ott's influences, but I want to push back a little bit on what you were saying because the sense to me with what their defensive personnel is and the limitations of it is that he's probably got a little bit of Jerry Sloan, in his ethos, which is like, they're not going to call them all. And we don't have, we've got physical, rugged defenders who like to get up underneath people. Let's just beat the shit out of people and see what we can get away with because it does feel that way a little bit when you watch them.
Well, to be fair, we already talked about SGA calling Brooks a bitch, but let me remind also that Brooks turned around and called Chet Holmgren a bitch during one of their. So also, if you want to talk about a guy getting under people's skin and being physical, I mean, Chet Holmgren's about a full foot taller than Dylan Brooks, and he was staring up at him like he was lunch meat. So, they're. I think they took on the personality of the guy who's currently leading their team in scoring while their 2 main scorers are out. And they've also taken on a lot of his personality as far as just like playing hard-nosed physical defense. I think we've always known that from Goodwin. Royce O'Neal's had that in him before. Yeah. Mark Williams has been a little bit more physical, at least around the rim. I mean, I think that's part of their identity. I think they're very comfortable playing that way. But they can't complain about the free throws whenever they play that way. That's all I'm saying. If you want to be physical, don't be surprised when they call it.
Yeah. They've also got a bunch of guys who really had to come up over the course of their careers. And that kind of like dog in you mentality is just so ingrained in that, right? Like when you think about Colin Gillespie, Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen wasn't like a low draft pick, but what his career trajectory was, Royce O'Neal, Nick Richards, like these are all dudes who really didn't have, I mean, the guard that you just, Jordan Goodwin, it's like these are all dudes that like really had to like carve out a niche for themselves and compete on very high levels to earn their roles on their respective teams. And now they're all on the same team together. And that mentality galvanizes and coalesces into what you see with them.
I think that's an excellent point. All right, real quickly, give me the finals of the NBA Cup and give me a winner.
The finals. So we're not going to pick each game?
No, we don't even have to pick each game. Let's just do it real quick. Let's just go straight to finals. Who do you got?
I would go Thunder Knicks, and I'd take the Thunder.
Okay. I'm gonna kind of throw a little curveball out there. I don't know. I just don't like picking like chalk or what I think is obvious. So I'm just gonna say what I think is very entertaining. I'm gonna go Spurs Heat, and I'm gonna say the Spurs win it. The Heat. I think with the injury to Orlando, I think the Heat have a clear path. And then I think with the reemergence of Victor Wembanyama and the Thunder being a little shorthanded and maybe looking a little bit more forward past the NBA Cup, maybe the Spurs give us an entertaining game and beat OKC and get themselves an NBA Cup and really get their momentum going for their season. So
I would love to watch the double big matchup with the Heat rolling out Bam and Ware and the Spurs running out Wemby and Cornette. That would be awesome. I'll gladly sign me up.
That. I think that would be really fun basketball to watch, especially considering the way Miami's offense is running and the Spurs and the way they're going to have to defend that. I think that would be a highly entertaining matchup. But I think Thunder Knicks, which a lot of people had as a preseason NBA Finals favorite, I think that could also be an excellent matchup as well. So I'm not ruling out OKC. I just think it's boring to pick chalk sometimes. So I just try and pick something I think would be fun sounding and you know, maybe and usually that gets me in trouble, which is why I don't bet that way. Yeah. But NBA Cup, very excited for those games. Check them out on Tuesday and Wednesday. I think they're all on Amazon Prime. So be sure that you're checking those games out. We're going to move on. We're going to skip the vibe check for today, and we're just going to get straight into 3 up, 3 down. Aaron, would you like to start, or would you like me to?
I'll let you begin today, my friend.
I think there's only one place that we can start, and it's with that motherfucker, Pat Spencer. I don't think I want to talk about anything else than once I've like really seen the last 4 games out of Pat Spencer where he's averaging 16, 6, and 4. And then you hear about his story. And then I found out there was another Spencer in the NBA.
Oh, wait, you didn't know that's Cam's brother?
I had no clue that those guys were related.
So you clearly have not paid it. I mean, you don't need to pay enough attention to my threads, but I've made multiple jokes about them being like the from Step Brothers and like using those memes and stuff.
Yeah.
About, between the two of them, their average draft position is 59th, because one was taken 57th and the other went undrafted. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact that Pat Spencer was the number 1 lacrosse player in the country for 4 years, used his 5th year to just walk on and play some college basketball, goes undrafted, and then makes it to the NBA and is now giving the Warriors team, which is in desperate need of good vibes and some lively players. And they would have been one of my down teams this week had it not been for that motherfucker, Pat Spencer, and that will forever be his name. I don't care how long he's in the league. Every team wants a Pat Spencer. Every organization, every coach wants a Pat Spencer. This story is awesome, and he's been playing awesome. Like, you and I were texting about how bad of a loss that was for the Cavs the other night whenever they lost to a Curry-less, Butler-less, Horford-less,
Draymond-less.
Keep going. They were at home at full strength, and they lost to that Warriors team.
They didn't have Jared Allen, but still.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I always try to be fair whenever I'm talking about these teams. That I always try to mention, if they're having injury problems, I will not just gloss over the fact that injuries are a part of basketball.
But if we're counting the scales where the ledger's concerned,
Yeah.
Jared Allen
No
versus the
Curry versus
Warriors'
no Jared
entire
Allen. I think we know who
top
was in the
six. Yeah,
favor there.
yeah, yeah.
And
We
actually,
love us some
I
Jared
had
Allen.
the Cavs as one of my down teams, and we can just use that if you want to, because I was already I was going to talk about them being 4-6 in their last 10, and they've been both 14th in offensive rating and defensive rating. They've just been so meh. But
No, it's we can just transition straight into them because I was going to use them as a down too, unless you still want to
perfect.
talk about
Yeah.
Pat for a minute.
Go ahead. No, I mean Pat's awesome. If there's anything else you want to add or any little colloquial but
the one thing I will say, what's funny is one of my best friends is a lacrosse coach. And so he's actually been talking about Pat Spencer from the moment he started playing for Santa Cruz and just telling me this dude was like the most talented offensive player he had ever seen in lacrosse. And he was just really excited
that number one overall pick.
Yeah. And he was just excited that this guy was going to get an opportunity at any level. He's a Warriors fan as well. No way in hell did he see this happening. But it's awesome for my boy Joe because this dude who's a lacrosse player now plays for his favorite team and is balling out. This guy's on a 2-way contract, right? Jonathan Kuminga, who they're supposed to be like inflating this guy's trade value, gets a DMP last night, and Pat Spencer just happens to tear up another terrible Chicago Bulls loss, but good for Pat Spencer. We don't even talk about the Bulls.
I think that's his third coach, like DNP, I think, for Jonathan Kuminga. And it's not.
It's not good there, and we don't need to talk about that.
That relationship has been bad enough. But yeah, let's switch back over to the Cavs. Like I said, 4-6 in their last 10. Middle of the road offense, middle of the road defense. I will preface again that there have been a lot of injuries. But
at this point with them, that just has to be the conversation. They never are at full strength.
This was. I don't think the road could have been cleared any better for them to have a path to follow to get to the NBA Finals, and they just look like one of the softest, most lethargic teams that are supposed to be good. That are supposed to. I mean, they've done such a great job around building around the edges. I don't think there's anybody who would say like DeAndre Hunter wasn't a nice pickup, that Lonzo Ball wasn't a nice pickup. I know they haven't had Max Strus at all this year. I know that they've had guys in and out of the lineup, but this team should be better than what they are. And there's no reason they should be so middling. And it's just, that's the part that bothers me. If you're going to be bad, like because of injuries, I get it. You can recover from that. But just being consistently in the middle and just boring and not showing any fight is a thing that I can never forgive for a team that's supposed to be good.
They're taking too many threes. The NBA has figured them out offensively in a way that's, I think at this point, just like, look, Donovan can get his, and we're kind of fine with that. Let's let him wear out his XP and see if he has enough down the stretch to withstand. And, to be honest, that blueprint has kind of been the Donovan Mitchell approach since he's been in Utah. In terms of how you handle him, let him get big numbers and just see if you can kind of mitigate everybody else. And the fact that Evan Mobley didn't take the leap offensively that all of us basically were expecting, that Darius Garland just always looks lost and marginalized and picked on. And the rest of it is just, you look at this team on paper compared to what they were last year, this doesn't make sense. But then you watch them and you're like, I don't want to watch this anymore.
It's maybe one of the worst watches in the NBA. And I bounced around a few different teams, and even like bad teams, they're like, there's something fun to watch about them, even if they're bad. This is not a team they're not good, and they're also not fun. And that's just like, that's a real indictment of this team because they have a lot of players that I really like. So I don't know what it is they're missing. Do you think it's a coaching issue? Or is it the players not giving it their full effort?
It's too early after the run that we saw Kenny Atkinson go on last year for it to be a coaching issue to me. I think the reality is that we now have enough data and information to understand that these four players aren't enough together. You and I talked about this, I think, separately through text. I've talked to a couple other people. It's just time. It's time. You got to move. Actually, we talked about it on the last podcast, I think, as well.
Yeah, we did. We talked about it last podcast. We talked about their lack of physicality. We talked about the fact that they could use a player like Dillon Brooks.
Yeah, we talked about the Draymond trade.
For them. I mean, something's got to change. And I feel like the Cavs will make I think they will be active at the trade deadline and hunting something. But like,
We may have talked about this before, but like uh, Michael Porter Jr. and Day'Ron Sharp for Darius Garland and something would be a deal that would
and
really
Jared
interest me
Allen,
both ways. Yeah. Except for like to me, you
yeah.
kind of need to keep like those
I
bigs
don't know
are
what the
not.
money works on that. I don't know
Yeah,
the trade machine on that
and
one.
I'd rather you trade Darius Garland to see what you can fill around than Jared Allen. Opposed to if you have to get rid of one, now if you're getting rid of both and you're just keeping Mobley and Mitchell, now we're really opening things up. Look, Darius Garland to Minnesota is a deal that could interest the absolute hell out of me. Can you get Jaden McDaniels in that deal? And if you can
Oh
work
boy.
something out where you get Jaden McDaniels to Cleveland, you get Darius Garland to Minnesota, it solves both teams' problems. And I really like the foundation of what that would be because you finally get toughness and physicality, but Minnesota, I mean, you probably got to sweeten that quite intensely.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like Minnesota is just be terrified to move on from McDaniels because they have such a high, they probably have a higher regard for him than the rest of the league does because of what his potential could be. Because they would hate to be the team that traded him before he made the league. Because he's made like a couple of mini leaps in the last couple of seasons, and it's just because of his length and his size. I think they love him. But yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see Garland have his own team. It'd be horrible to kind of maroon him on that sinking Brooklyn Nets ship, but something's got to change. And I mean, I think one of the biggest problems that with your deal with Michael Porter is you said this is a team that takes too many threes. Well, this is a guy who takes only threes. That's damn near the only shot he takes. So they need something. I thought DeAndre Hunter would be this for them. This kind of physical tone setter they could close the games with. He hasn't been that.
That's because that was a common misconception with
I
DeAndre
think
Hunter
that
for
is. I
3
think I was the
seasons
one who
now.
was wrong about
Everybody saw the physical build and what he was in
it. I
college.
assumed he could be that.
Yeah, and he's not.
That he
He's
would
what he
grow
is
into that.
he's a great spot up shooter who has good size, but that's kind of all he is, to be honest. He doesn't really give you anything else than that.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. So I did an up and a down there. So I'll leave it up to you wherever you want to go.
I'm going to
With
start with a down. This
okay.
is the Wagner family is probably just going to skip the month of December
Oh
going
my
forward
god.
because over the last 2 Decembers, Franz tore his oblique December 6th. Mo tore his Achilles December 21st last year. And now Franz got a high ankle sprain on December 7th. I don't know what's going on in that family with this time of the year, but
It was
maybe just rest them until January. They play November. They just get to sit out the month of December, and then you bring them back because this
it
is
was
getting weird.
maybe it's Krampus. Maybe
Yeah.
it's an old German folktale coming back to haunt them in the month of December. But it was almost a year to the day of the torn oblique that he got the high ankle
Yes.
sprain. It was almost
Yeah.
exactly, I think it was 12-4, and it happened on 12-5. So we were just like, damn it, man, what is happening to you in December?
It
And
was 12
yeah,
6 and 12-7. And yes.
oh yeah, so I was close. Yeah, I think it was. I mean, it was a day
Yeah.
apart by a year, but it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
He
it's
tore it on the Friday the 6th and then Sunday the 7th.
man.
All right.
Tough.
And then my up. And this is one that we had predicted and talked about, so we're going to do a little victory lap. But Jaylen Brown being a top 5 fringe level scorer, he's at number 6 right now at 29.1, and just an absolute effing monster in the mid-range right now. Nobody but maybe Kevin Durant is operating better from the elbow and nail than Jaylen Brown. And what's crazy is everybody knows what's happening. You can see the defensive attack and approach to it. And Jaylen Brown is so physical and so strong. And that one quick power dribble he takes to get into that step back, if he gets there before that secondary help is there, or the secondary help is a touch late, that's an and one or a bucket. Dude has looked awesome the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I made a post on Threads that he deserves all the flowers, and I stand by all of that. I mean, I think we all knew that he could be a scoring leader. He's shown that before. The guy's averaged like 25 a game while playing
27 and
alongside Jason Tatum. So yeah, he was always capable of this, but this is like he's at another level in his scoring and his decision making and the way that they've kind of retooled this offense around his skill set. He is just bulldozing people, and he's using his physicality and his strength. I mean, there's nothing that's stopping him from getting to the lane. It's almost like prime Jimmy Butlerish but he's got more of a 3-point stroke. He obviously can. I mean, it's around league average. I don't know where he's at this year, but
He's at 36.3%,
okay,
which is one of the
slightly
top.
above
Yeah.
league average.
One of the things that's really a credit to him is the expectation for me is that the efficiency was going to be down. He's shooting he's 49.6% from
Yeah.
the field. Dude is shooting, I want to make sure I get this right, 56.4% on long twos right now.
Oh, his mid-range game is ridiculous.
That's supposed to be the inefficiency in the league, right? And he is crushing it. And it's not because he's getting open looks from there. It's because he's nailing these crazy turnarounds, these hard drive. Like, it is really impressive to watch. And would
it be? Is it sacrilegious, or is it unfair to say that he's got that Kawhi Leonard build and like in that game?
No, I mean we that comparison has been hanging out there since college, like him. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, like I was gonna say that there's like a Kawhi Leonard body type and a Kawhi Leonard skill set that's kind of being embraced by some of these guys. I also said that Jalen Williams from Oklahoma City, that is his ceiling is Kawhi Leonard. That is a ceiling. Obviously, I'm saying like if he reaches the pinnacle, who he can be, and I think that is no knock. I mean, I know people, like to think that it's funny to talk about Kawhi now, but we know what Kawhi was when he was healthy and in his prime. I mean, he was unguardable. And that's where Jaylen Brown's been this year.
Yeah. I think first with my boy J-Dub, to me, his peak is more Scottie Pippen just because of the amount of on-ball and the passing is so much better than Kawhi could ever do. But the rest of what you're saying in terms of getting to his spots, the physicality, the two-way play, all totally there and all peak level stuff that's possible for him because he is a guy who can win a finals MVP and he is a type of guy who can win a defense player of the year. Like Jalen Williams can do
that's what I'm saying. It's the defensive side of the ball stuff too because Jaylen Brown is hounding people. He's their best. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. I was going to switch over to Jaylen Brown. I think the Jaylen Brown Kawhi stuff makes a little bit more sense than the Jaylen Brown or the Kawhi Jalen Williams stuff because of the limitations too, right? Like Jaylen Brown still, when it gets that left hand, it's a little squirrely. You still know kind of, and that was some of the stuff with Kawhi too. Jaylen Brown is a better playmaker than I think Kawhi was on a play-to-play basis, but like their peak ability to read and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, like if this is sustainable for an entire season, and at this point now with Jaylen Brown, it's unfair not to think it because we're now at 5 years of Jaylen Brown being an all NBA level performer. And the way that he's put this team on his back and the way that he's done this was the defense is throwing everything at him. Like, dude, 5 out of 5 stars, highly recommend. I have not always been the biggest fan of parts of his games, but even the liabilities are not worth discussing to me right now because of what he's doing.
Well, and he also weathered some really poor starts from his
Derek White didn't enter the fold. He didn't enter the chat until like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. And then Peyton Pritchard was figuring out an increased role as well. And now he's operating without a center and he's got Kata's actually.
Kata's leading the NBA right now in screen assists per minute, which you want an esoteric stack, boom.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. He gave all those times because of how good he was playing. He gave all those guys the ability to kind of weather through their increased role. And,
that's a great point.
And now they found themselves and like the Boston Celtics, like I said, let's take that quick snapshot of the last 10 games. I think in offensive rating, let's see, the Boston Celtics are number 1, and their defensive rating, I think they're a little bit further down. They're like 20th, but number 1 in offensive rating is ridiculous. So
yeah, and especially look, you and I talked about this on the last pod. I'm a little upset with myself because I withheld some of my my exuberance for what I thought Boston could be in terms of like putting my money where my mouth was on some of my picks and things. But this is in many ways what I believed they were going to be able to do. But it's still because of how the season started and because they looked so much like the worst version of what we thought it could be and the way that they have recovered from that to be kind of the best version of what this group can be is a testament to that entire locker room, the maturity and professionalism in that group, Joe Mazzulla, and the fact that their best player has played at his best the entire year. Your point was an awesome one. him playing at that level allowed those other dudes to find their way into their roles at a pace that allowed for them not to just completely dissolve under the pressure. Yeah.
And, to be fair, I just looked at this to make sure. You and I said Boston was going to win 44 games.
Yeah. No, you don't remember on the last pod, you undercut yourself. You were like, oh, yeah, they're outplaying what we expected. I'm like, no, we got in a whole argument with on a whole thing on the pod.
I had him higher than that. Than 44 games. So that was actually on me for forgetting where I had him. Yeah. But, Jaylen Brown's been awesome, man. Good for him. And he deserves this because I think he's been one of the most underappreciated superstars in basketball because he's been overshadowed by Jason Tatum. And now he's getting that chance to shine. And also gives Jason Tatum the opportunity to perhaps come back and, see if he can help them make a playoff push.
Do we love or hate that?
I'm not recommending that at all.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
I bet they weren't having this conversation when the season started. They were just at payroll.
They were having it because Tatum was putting so much pressure on them to have it. And he's been recovering at such a crazy level. And Bill Simmons made this point in his podcast. We've seen Drew Smith and guys can do that, but we have yet to see a guy with Jason Tatum's type of athleticism and workload come back at that type of rapid rate. And I don't want to. I don't want to see him this season.
Years ago, tried to say the same thing about Chet Holmgren coming back from the Lisfranc fracture.
Yeah.
It was like Gary, and then we were like, they took the long view. It was the right decision. I hope Boston does it too, but I think you're going to be very hard pressed to keep Jason Tatum off the floor if he wants to be there.
And no matter what, the reality is their financial situation is still what it is. So you only get so many bites at the championship apple. So if you think this is a title contending team, that may be an economic decision as much as anything.
Yeah. So remind me, did you just do an up? Where are we?
I just did an up. So you can pick an up or a down, and then I'll pick either number out.
I'm going to stay with an up real quick, just because we were talking about underappreciated superstars, and I want to talk about Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is having one of the best starts to his career, a guy who's a notorious slow starter. He's 25-7-4, and he's flirting with 50-40-90. I mean, he has been outstanding. And then when you look at this Denver team, who is somehow going overlooked because they're 17-6, they've won 10 games in a straight on the road, and they've had 3 guys this year score 50 points. 3 different guys score 50 points. And the lowest field goal percentage, I think, among all those 50-point games was 72%.
That's crazy.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, because I think Murray was at 76%, and I think Jokic was at 81% on his 50-point game. So on field goals. I mean, it's just ridiculous, but he's playing outstanding. Jamal Murray just looks fantastic. He's whenever he is going this well, whenever he is, this second, this solid second contributor alongside Nikola Jokic, it's what makes this Denver team so scary.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about Denver quite a bit for obvious reasons. One, they have the best player in basketball, but they also have one of the most interesting groups just to talk about because of what you said. There's a lot of dynamic players in their starting lineup. I mean, 3 guys scoring 50 this early in the season. I actually am hoping to do something on this because I want to see when the last time that happened, if it's happened, with 3 guys doing it this early. If the last time
I think I read something that said that it was that no team this early on has had 3 different players score 50 in the same season.
Okay. So I hadn't looked it up, but my assumption was going to be that. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And they just, they're humming along in a way that should terrify the rest of the league because they're not doing anything different. Their bench is better. They're playing kind of better team defense, but you're not like, oh man, this Nuggets team is playing so hard, or they're trying, it's just kind of the
shaky. They're number 2 in offensive rating in their last game, but I think they're 28th in defensive rating. Well, kind of the same. Yeah. I mean, they started off the season kind of playing, I think they had a top 10 defensive rating to start the season. And I was like, be interested to see if that lasts. It did not last.
It has not. Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that I think Cam Johnson is still. I think the offensive struggles have impacted his also defensive struggle, like caused defensive struggles for him. So I would like to see what that looks like whenever he starts to kind of get more comfortable. But hurry the hell up on that. It's been about 25 games, brother. You
Yeah,
might
but
want
he's looked a lot better. I mean, he's a big reason they've played better, and it's because he's getting Aaron Gordon's opportunities.
sure.
But he's been in double digits.
Well,
We
and
had talked
without Aaron Gordon's it's a big problem for their defense. I mean,
exactly.
he's so much better. And
That was
Christian Brown also being out.
yeah. You said exactly. Their two best defensive players have been out during the
Yeah.
stretch that they're playing their worst defense. And the thing with
I'm never going to dog somebody because they play bad defense because good defensive players are out. I get it.
and when your point of attack defender and Christian Brown's gone, and your best kind of perimeter, or excuse me, your best interior shot blocker and Aaron Gordon are both out, it's like Nikola Jokic isn't the guy that's going to be stopping anybody from blowing by Jamal Murray, who's not going to be the guy stopping anybody from blowing by him. Like
exactly. And then like Tim Hardaway Jr. is not exactly a defensive stopper in his own right.
Yeah.
So they keep relying on offense to kind of generate. They've been playing these high scoring games, but like I said, they've been winning them 10 straight games on the road. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's not easy to do.
No, I mean that's the thing. This Nuggets team, I think we expected like they're going to win 55 games. It's just the thing that it's difficult for me to imagine a team that plays a mile high will peak too early. But no, more importantly, like yeah, I had to do it.
Do it.
I just want to know, because we've never seen Jamal Murray play at a super high level for an entire season. We've never seen that.
Right.
So can he sustain this all the way through? Is this going to be too early for him or not? And that interests me the most in all of this.
Well, I mean, the biggest question about him has always been his conditioning and his commitment to that. And I think that he's coming into the season being in as good a shape as he's been. I think that's an encouraging sign whether or not this is sustainable or not. Now, I think what it is, and this is just my opinion, and I might be completely off base here, but I think a lot of teams or a lot of NBA fans, they like the shiny new thing. And I think we've just seen Denver be so consistently good like this for so long that people have kind of like, they kind of overlooked them a little bit. The Spurs, the Lakers, the Pistons, the Raptors, all these really fun teams that have, kind of stolen all the spotlight. But Denver just quietly, humming along. They're going to get Brown and they're going to get Gordon back. The defense is going to improve, and they're going to help also contribute a lot to the offense. Those guys are consistent contributors on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, don't forget about Denver when we talk about, some of the upper echelons. When you talk about Houston, when you talk about the Spurs, whenever you talk about Denver and the Lakers, they're in that conversation. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I mean they belong there as much as anybody. I mean, right now to me, the cream of the crop in the league starts with the Thunder, but then the Nuggets are 2, 3, or 4, depending on what you ever want, but they're not any lower than that.
Right. All right. Yeah. Do you want me to do it down?
Yeah, why don't you pick it down to close us out?
Because I was going to talk about your Bulls. And I hate to.
Do we have to? I feel like we bring them up on this podcast too much.
Just like not talk about the fact that they started 5-1 and they were the darling of the league, and they're 4-13 since. They're 26th in offense and they're 30th in defense. I mean, it's really it's bad. Oh wait, I think I might have switched those. I think they're 30th in offense and they're 26th in defense. And
no, I'm willing to bet it's the other way around, because that defense has been god awful.
Yeah, I'll take a quick peek. Yeah, the Bulls are dead last in offense and they're 26th in defense.
Oh, I was wrong. Well, we got Jack Collins back.
Hey, that's nice. That's nice. I know that it's very hard for you to talk about the Bulls. It feels like this fall needs to be studied a little bit.
What's so hard about it is it's not just that they're losing, it's who and how.
Yes.
Right? Like the teams that they have lost to over these last 7 games, the Pelicans, the Hornets, the Pacers, the Magic, the Nets, the Pacers, the Warriors. That is really, really bad. Like that's you're losing to the cream of the crap. I don't know what you want to call that, the group of
The
those teams, but the
the
only
bottom of
team
the bowl.
the only team in that entire list that's been playing good basketball lately is the Magic. And the defensive look, this group was never going to be a very good defensive team, but they were playing with energy and connectivity and playing for each other. That's gone. Anybody who saw my Threads post yesterday, it literally looked like a Benny Hill skit watching them lose people, like play yakety sax in the background. Like this was, it's dissolved so quickly. And look, maybe Trey Jones and Kevin Huerter mean that much to this team. If they do, then I have questions about the composition of the team. Kobe White.
They can't give up on their young core and trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo if that report is to be believed, which I thought was like a Hoops Centel report.
Or I think the very last thing any organization should want is an extremely unhappy Giannis, and I cannot imagine him going an hour, whatever that is, northwest on whatever highway gets you there from Milwaukee to Chicago, being excited that that's going to be his destination for the next year and a half. I want no part of that. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. If you can get Giannis, sure, give us Giannis, and then I'll like cheer for him for a year and a half, and then he'll leave.
Well, the report was that Giannis reached out to them about the idea of playing in Chicago, and they said they didn't want to disrupt their young core.
Wait, I missed this, and I'm glad I missed it.
Yeah, again, I thought this was an NBA Centel report when I saw the tweet. I was like, what young core are we talking about here? Because if they're asking for like Matas, Buzelis, I mean, like, yeah, you're not going to be thrilled about it, but it's still Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like, what? Look, I mean, my thing was, I was like, why would Giannis reach out to Chicago? Because that doesn't, his situation wouldn't really change there. From Milwaukee to Chicago, if he wants to compete for a championship, they're not in position to be doing that. So that doesn't make sense. And then what young core would the Bulls be protecting? I don't know what that means either. So I assume that report was bullshit, but you know, I was going to bring it up because it sounded so ridiculous when I read it that I literally laughed out loud. I lulled.
Yeah, that's wild. My hope.
Sorry.
Like it's been really difficult for me to even process all this because I wasn't surprised that this Bulls team is now at like 9-13. I'm surprised about how it happened, right? Like yeah. Even when this was all going well, I'm like, okay, we may have talked about it where it's like, yeah, I thought they'd be like 42.
The question we brought up was, which one do you think is more sustainable, the Bulls or the Sixers? That was the question that you and I had. And I was like, based on blah, 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 I think I edged toward the Sixers. But I was like, I like the way this Bulls team is playing. And I like the way they're playing for each other. And I like, what they're building in Chicago. And I don't know where that went.
It out the door with a strong gust of wind, I guess, because it's right. I'm hoping that
Kobe White's trying to tank his trade value. He's doing a fantastic job of it.
I'm interested to see because I think the reality is that this makes Kobe wholly expendable now because unfortunately so much of this losing lines up with him being reintegrated into the lineup.
It's really hard not to connect those two pieces.
I don't think he's such a bad defensive player that justifies what we're seeing, but the reality of it is that. And so now, look, you can't look at this group right now and go, yeah, we want to go sign Kobe and have a backcourt that's going to call it. Even if you get Kobe for the same Josh Giddey deal.
You got to pay him.
Yeah. Well, if you get him for the Josh Giddey deal, you got great. Backcourt. Yeah, those two guys for $50 million combined, you'll be perfectly content with that. But the point being, you probably have to make the asset play now here, which not always their strong point. But it's not as bleak to me as it feels in this moment because
I have a lot of sad Bulls fans in my threads. I'm just saying a lot of them.
But my conversations on threads right now, it's like me and Jim and
coming to you and they're like, Aaron, what is happening? And you're just like, I don't know.
And like it's just all of us like, what is happening? Like, oh, we suck again. Like I said, like that's embedded in my brain. Like
every night you're just like, oh no, we suck again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to end on such a bummer note, but we had to kind of like one of my down teams. It was either that or I was going to talk about the flip side of Pat Spencer, and that was Podziemski, but I didn't want to dump it.
Podziemski had a good game against you guys. I almost messaged you during that.
He had a good first quarter.
I think he finished like 17. He hit that three at the end of the third,
Like,
but it was
I
like,
think he hit 11 in the first quarter,
yeah,
though.
he did.
Then, I was like, we're going to have to put a body on Pajemski. That's embarrassing, but, that happens.
Yeah.
Before we go, since I kind of brought up the hot take thing, and I told you I had one for the holiday season, and since it's December, I feel like it's a good time to bring up this hot take. I think that Kelly Clarkson, her song "Underneath the Tree," is a better, more catchy, more entertaining, more playable song than Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You." And I just wanted to get my hot take out there about the Christmas season. "All I Want for Christmas Is You" is overplayed, it's played out, but Kelly Clarkson's "Underneath the Tree" is an absolute banger. She's one of the best singers that we have like in the world right now. Everyone who's ever seen her perform live thinks she's amazing, and I just want to get that out. So I don't know if you had a hot take you wanted to provide, but I had one for you.
Ooh, Chris. Well, now I feel like it's got to be like a holiday themed hot take. You know what?
If
This.
you hate gingerbread cookies, I won't. I think
Uh,
that's fair.
I mean, gingerbread cookies are just whatever. I'll tell you one. I, I don't get the deal with fudge. I've never gotten the deal with fudge. Fudge does absolutely nothing for me. I hate the way it smells. It's not really savory or sweet. It's just kind of too rich and bitter half the time. Like
Yeah.
like 90% of the time somebody drops it on a table, it smells like I'm going by like I used to live near a chocolate factory, and so all you smell is like the burning smell of chocolate, which is terrible. It is like the worst thing in the air in the morning, and that's what fudge reminds me of. For any listeners out there, please don't send me fudge. I appreciate it. If you're ever sending me anything, not that anybody ever has, but I got family members and shit that might listen to this occasionally. Like
a couple of years ago, I got a package that was not. It was addressed to me, but it had no return address. I had no idea what it was. I opened the box, and it was a box full of Florida fruit. It was like pears and oranges, and I was like, "Who the fuck sent me a box of fruit?" I thought about that for weeks, and I finally found out it was my aunt and uncle who lived down in Florida, but they didn't put a name on it. And I was like, I asked my sister, my brother, my sister-in-law. I was like, my mom. I was like, who sends someone fresh fruit in the mail? And that happened to me. So
were they worried you had scurvy or something?
Yeah,
was there an outbreak in North Carolina that they found out about?
Appreciate some fresh fruit. It was just an odd gift, and I wasn't really ready to receive it. But it's surprising to me how much I agree with you about fudge. It's like a denser, worse version of a brownie. Why would
exactly.
you just want a brownie?
Yeah. I love a good quality brownie, especially if it's got some stuff. That's the other thing. Fudge never like has anything fun in it. You know, like
it's just like here's a brick of chocolate.
Yeah.
You try and bite into it, you'll break your teeth.
Yeah.
It's so dense, and it's like, and you can't eat more than a couple of bites of it. So I'm like, who's bringing all this fudge?
I am convinced fudge is a marketing ploy by a company who had a bunch of like maybe Betty Crocker started it, and they had a bad batch of a bunch of like their chocolate brownie mix or something. Like, we're gonna come up with this stuff. What should we fucking call it? A fudge. What should we fucking call it? We'll brand it. Like, they just sold it to us, and now
it's like somebody dumped a bunch of like brownie mix into a cement mixer that had cement in it.
Yeah.
And they were just like, it just churned up. And it's like, here's a ball of fudge, and you throw it at somebody and it breaks their fucking face.
Yeah.
I don't get it, man. That's a really good call. Fudge is bad.
We're out on fudge. Yeah.
Up with Kelly Clarkson, though.
Now I got to go listen to the song because I don't know it. My favorite Christmas song was "Baby It's Cold Outside" for a long time, and then
now you're not allowed to like it. Apparently,
in fairness, even as a kid, I can remember being like, "This sounds a little problematic to me." Like, what's in this drink? I was like, But now we're in an era where, like, I'm totally fine with, hey, if we're gonna if we're saying it's not okay, that's how culture improves and progresses. We acknowledge something that was okay and no longer is, and I'm fine with that too.
I'll give you a weird one. I was listening to like a random Christmas station, and I heard this song, and I assumed that it was like, I didn't think it was Frank Sinatra, but I thought it was like somebody like that, an old crooner. And it turns out it was Seth MacFarlane from Family Guy.
Oh yeah, well, doesn't he? I mean, he has a couple albums and stuff. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, he sounds like, he
he
loves
does
that
crooning. That's his whole thing. Yeah,
band
yeah,
1940s, 1950s type. But he made a Christmas album, and it just happened to come on a station. And I was like, who sings this song? I was like, it actually sounds pretty good. Shockingly, Seth MacFarlane made a pretty good Christmas album. And he did a cover of Baby It's Cold Outside, which is what made me think of it. So,
I only want to hear it if he does it in Stewie's voice for the whole song, though.
Oh, he does it in Brian's, which is
so maybe it's cold. Yeah.
But yeah, that is it for the podcast. A nice 90 minutes for us. Look at us go. I'm very surprised and impressed and happy with all of that. I feel like we covered a lot of the NBA. I'm very excited to watch these games that are coming up this week for the NBA Cup. Aaron, do you have anything you need to talk about or plug?
Some stuff will be out soon, but besides that, no, I got nothing new. Sunrise Mountains Miners 3-3. Shout out to the kids. We're a week and a half into our basketball season. We played 6 games in about 7 days. They eked that out. Was really impressed considering that 2 of our, maybe 3 of our top 8 rotational players are freshmen playing varsity, and we've played some good basketball. And so none of those guys listen to this, but maybe someday this will be out somewhere where they can hear it and they'll know that I was proud of their efforts and the way they've improved in the time I've been fortunate to assist.
Champion our W's, even if they're personal or whatever. So good on you. Good coaching by you.
How was your time with your dad?
Oh, time with my dad was great. Got to take him to the best restaurant in Wilmington while he was here because his birthday is 3 days after Christmas. So that was his Christmas birthday present. He loved it. He had a great time. Showed him a lot of the city. Unfortunately, it was cold and rainy a lot the entire time that he was here. So I kind of drove him by the beach. Couldn't let him get out and walk along the beach because it was too cold and too rainy.
You went right by the beach, boy. Sorry.
Yeah. I was like, hey, doesn't that water look good out there? Okay, we're driving past it. Then that's all I could do. But yeah, it was a quick couple of days, but I always love spending time with my dad. He had a great time. And made it back.
Where was he visiting? Was he visiting from Oklahoma or where's he?
Yeah, he's visiting from Oklahoma. But it's his 3rd time in Wilmington. It's just since I wasn't coming home for the holidays, my dad came out here because I went home a couple of months ago during the Oktoberfest season. So I saw him. So we kind of just traded back and forth. But he got to stay at my house and he actually really bonded with my dog, which was really fun. So
awesome.
Yeah, my dad's not a dog guy. He's one of those weird dudes that he talks to dogs like they're humans. He's not really an animal guy.
Yeah.
So he's just hello, how are you to a dog? And it's funny to watch because he doesn't, he pets him like that.
My dad's the exact same.
No idea how to just pet a dog. He's an animal guy. He got animals for us when we were kids because we begged for them. My sister had a cat. We always had a dog. But my dad was like, they're your responsibility. I don't care for them. I don't walk them. I don't clean up after them. That's your job. So my dad's never been an animal guy, but to see him bond with a dog is pretty funny. So
yeah,
awesome. Glad to have my dad out here. Yeah. Good on you, Bob. Well, that's it for us from the No Gimmies podcast. Please check out the Basketball Intelligence Network where you can find a bunch of wonderful podcasts like The Corner 3. And you can also find a podcast like this one, get some newsletters in your email. It's always a treat. And you can catch Aaron's wonderful writing on there as well whenever he drops his articles every so sporadically.
Yeah. I've had a newsletter pending editing for 8 days, but for anybody out there that's listening, I think most people understand that I'm stupid busy and it's just a reflection of that.
Yeah, but he's getting his writing done and you should check it out because Aaron's an excellent writer as well as an excellent podcast host. So always glad to champion his stuff. Please check out the Basketball Intelligence Network. Please subscribe, and follow this podcast. We always appreciate the listens. But, if you can help us kind of build that rating up, build that following up, we always appreciate it. And we will end this podcast the same way that we always do, briefly, succinctly, with adios.